online information for the phone. We already had a pilot who presented it here. Here in Leishoish, for this information of the contribution to ask a truck to go somewhere to pick something and to deliver it somewhere else. Weathermosh. So that's the name of the project. This is an attempt to enlarge this to other pilot partners in this case, to try to implement this concept. But it is indeed what we're trying to do. It's our ambitions here in Leishoish to go from the PSW to the PW and try to affirm this concept. I'm not sure if I'm wrong about the time or if I'm very late. Just a little observation here, please. This week we started by speaking about the importance of the needs of the final consumer in the whole supply chain, and this PSW is giving the answer to this need, to the final consumer, trying to know how long the maritime transport will take and where the goods will be from the very beginning to each step of the door-to-door transport. It's going to give an answer to this great need of the consumer. Of course, the PSW, the LSW, I'm sorry, with this window, you are a buyer anywhere. You can just say, I want to bring a cargo from Leishoish to here. How can I do it? Who do I choose? And if they have the ability to do it by themselves, and try and see what the options are. Where I have an option, I have a ship that reaches here on Thursday that can make a journey here, then it goes by train. I can ask a truck to go pick it up there and bring it to the warehouse. So it's about choosing and having several options, knowing how much they cost. One example, a few years ago, one of our partners and imported, it had a factory 30 kilometers away from here, from the Leishoish port, and it basically imported their products because as they calculated it, at some point in our port costs, it was much less expensive for them to go to Alcides and get their trucks there to go get the load, and then bringing their cargo here and having them picked up here, because the port is expensive, because it had to wait a long time until we dispatched the cargo here. And during one of the integrated visits of an event here in Leishoish, I met one of the men that was a member of logistics that had been a navigation agent here in Leishoish, and then he went to Leishoish and disconnected a bit with the port. And so he came here and told us that in 64% we had implemented new concepts, new ways to work. He didn't know anymore the center as it did. And I asked him, well, where are you working now? Well, I'm working in Curticeira. I am in the logistic part. And I asked him, and you work with us? No. And why don't you work with us? No, because you're too expensive. That's what he told me. And from what I know, I can do. Problem of the inefficiency, I have to wait for this and for that, and so I just left him. We made a little trip around the port, a little visit, and at the end I'll just go back and talk to him after the visit. Of course, the center that he met, it seemed almost like the stock exchange, everyone discussing inefficiency and effectiveness. And when he entered our center today, of course, I had an eye on him all the time, and I knew he would feel the difference. And of course, I accompanied him, and at the end, he came to me and told me, of course, I don't know the port, you're right. And that's what I wanted him to understand. Then we had a meeting not only with him, but with all the men responsible for the exportation of molding cork. We had a less informal visit for the group, and then we had a meeting among members of the administration, because most of the goods pass by Lechonge now. So why do we choose a different port to a different scale? Because of fluidity, because of price, because of inefficiency. So here we're speaking about a new port, and what the LSW is going to introduce is the ability to make not only a choice about the port, but of the whole integration until it reaches home. So the door-to-door process in a platform that is interoperable among all the parts. Here, this is a part that Paulo knows very well here, and we're going to try and see here the port services, the structure and organization of some port services, of course, using here the case of Lechonge more particularly, try and see some skills, try and see the integration of port services. Of course, starting now, I'm going to use the Port of Lechonge as a case study for each of the questions that I've been mentioning before about the road fluidity, about ensuring the fluidity in mode connection, the ship procedure authorizations, the authorization of documents. I'm going to try and speak about these processes, the most important ones, with the time I have left. As I told you, these are the core processes without any doubt, and we're going to start with the service integration for the ship, so the macro process, that is until the ship reaches the pier. Of course, I used here the directive that I showed you. There are 5 or 6 processes of the report of pre-notification to be able to pre-authorize and evaluate the ship. And so as there will be no delays when he enters the port. And of course, we're trying to implement this in our PSW. The concept of electronic dispatch is just what I mentioned now. So the whole cycle of passing ships and to the pier, approximation, the entrance, the supply of pilot, all the other operations, and after having the authorizations, until he leaves the port again, and so until he leaves the 6 miles, finishing the ship process, that's where we're legally responsible. So we're going to see in a very short way, as long as time allows us to, see how it works. So the whole cycle is here supports the passing cycle of the ship. So the LSW allows all these processes. That's what's contracted here in the port. So being a port, I don't know if you mentioned it during the last days, the exploration models of the ports. There are 2 or 3 models that are standards, if we can say that, that are the tool port. I don't know if you mentioned it. The tool port, the little port. And I think that we do not fit either in one or in the other, because I believe that I think we're a bit ahead of these concepts. We are aligned with concepts that are in all the ports in Europe. The tool port is a port. It's a port authority that gives all the services. It makes the operation, the loading, the unloading. It has all the material that is necessary. So everything is offered by the port authority. And we were a tool port approximately 12 years ago. But the whole loading and unloading area was then given. It's not privatized, but it was given. We're speaking about a concession of public services. So the private business just adequates the entrance as he wants. It just attends the customers that he wants. A client with 2 containers is not interesting, and so we can choose them. Here in the public service, we have to provide the service. So we made this concession, giving that the person who receives the responsibility has the responsibility to maintain this concept of public service. If the customer has a lot or not so much cargo, he must be treated in the same way during the process at arrival. The first to arrive is the first to be served, and the others, we can't make a customer wait just because he has less cargo. So we have to provide this service in an equal way. Well, the landlord port, in which the port administration manages the infrastructure, the piers, everything, and that covers all of it. That is in a tax. That is the TUP, and that provides the services because these are common services such as lights. Someone has to pay for this effectiveness of the service, and so the whole operation was transferred to private, who are our concessionaires, and so we pay them. There's a payment that is made besides of course, the renting of the space and the equipment. That is like a landlord who buys a house and then rents it. Our position here in other ports is not the same. Of course, we do transfer the cargo movement, but we still have a control of this activity that is founded in some contractual principles. We tell them that they have to buy more equipment. In terms of amortization, they have to substitute it. They have to show us evidence of investment for us to keep the level of the port. And we go a little further. That's what I just told you. The whole port window is a port cost, and so we invest in the competitiveness of the effectiveness of the port. So the most ship the concessionaires have to operate, the most service of the port I provide. So we are condemned to a convenience marriage, so to say. We have the port interests and the private interests in the port, but there is a sub-port interest that has to be calculated, and we put ourselves in that role to promote the port among the concessionaires in this win-win relationship. So we want them to pay us a rent at the end of the month to promote the port and to make it more competitive, and of course to contribute to the activity of the port. And in this relationship, there are advantages for us, and it also allows them at the same time to improve technology, to make other investments, and to invest in the port as well. So these are the three concepts of port exploration. So we have an electronic dispatch through forms that allows the opening of for the ship port of call opening. We'll see why we apply this on the ground. Of course, the entrance authorization from the various authority, everything that is mandatory before the arrival of the ship to the port, the provision of declarative act the ship entrance, the available to competent authorities, the authorization for loading and unloading, the provision of services during the ship's stay in the port, all the repair servicing that the ship might need, all these requests from the authorization to enter aboard from the family member of the commander that comes to the port, all of this is inserted into the platform, and there is someone outside answering. I am currently here working with you. And a few moments ago, I had my phone signaling me in the pocket. I'm working, but some services have to be authorized by me for being more technical. I don't know, at 2:02 today, read the last one. I'm sorry, we cannot translate what is not being said into a microphone. So if we go online here, I don't know if I can enter easily the LSW. I have a request here. I made it in Venezuela the other day. So we have here a request from a ship that just entered the port and that is asking us for an authorization to make some work in the ship while it's here at the port. So I'm going to see if we can enter the platform through this computer. I'm not sure I can enter, or maybe I can. Let's see. As you can see here, we have here in the home page of the LSW, so I can be here or I can be anywhere else in the world. I'm here entering the home page. They're asking me for my login data, for my password. I'm entering the PSW right now. We can see it. Oh, you could have told me so. What's the point then? Well, I already closed the presentation. Oh, I have to close it, really? Shall I close it here? You can just minimize it, that's enough. Okay, let's close it. Can't you see it? There it is. Now I can see it. It's okay. So our colleague here is from Bulgaria, so let's see where his request is. You see, this is the request. So it entered the PSW, and as soon as it entered into the platform, it asked me to dispatch that service, so I can access that ship. I have here that ship, the characteristics of the ship. They're asking me for some solding services and other repair works. If I had to make a dispatch for some concerns, it had to do it. This is a routine work that I know quite well. I just select this here. I just save the changes right here. And the answer was given to for service aboard the ship. Did you know what would happen before? I would have to have a little note saying that I had to and tell the people that no one could answer their request right now. So you can see how fast it's made nowadays. Now that I answered here, where did it go? To the ship agent that gave the request, and now he's going to tell the captain that the service was authorized. This generally implies an entry on board. So people who enter aboard have to have credentials. It's a processor that has credentials in Porto, and it doesn't need the dispatch to enter the port. Otherwise, it had to come here and ask for the authorization to have work done aboard. If they ask about a service that is not credentialized by us, they have a small card access like this one. Almost every actor has it to be able to open the gate. Otherwise, we would have an authorization request at the CEF, and when it would reach me, everything would be ready to dispatch. And I just made this authorization, and it's been dispatched throughout the whole community. It went to the CEF, to the captainship. It went also to the port authority, to everyone. And right now, the commander probably received the notification And as easy as that incorporated the whole complexity of going with a paper to the port authority to ask for an authorization and then to go to the CEF. This person would only have authorization tomorrow to enter the. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Once again, I'm so sorry, we can only translate what is being said into a microphone. The request and my answer are indicators of all the dispatches that we make. So until I give all the indicators until the moment and the request is done and until I give the answer are given. And so I have the performance of each operator. The PSW can create the number of indicators that we need to be able to follow the business properly. And as I dispatch this, you will see very soon that's the same way that when a ship requests an authorization today, that will come to me and to the port authorization, and I'm going to show you the feedback that for me has to be done for me to let it enter.
This year, it was the year that we elected as one of our goals for this year the direction of port operation with mobility, because we are less and less people. Resources management, this platform is fundamental as innovation, the possibility of notification, of creating that profile is mine. I only have the tasks that I dispatch as a director. I have a vision and I'm notified by all the steps that my colleagues do. I'm notified, it just says this was authorized and that, and this is the same thing for each one of my colleagues. The tasks come to me to the one that I define and that I authorize, but there are other tasks that go to different colleagues that have ESPS, colleagues who have the asthmatic cargo, that need to assess them within the profile of personnel to authorization and to all these authorizations supply. I have a catalog here that I will show you. On the notification that we saw, the formalities of pre-arrival, I got these 6 processes connected with the vessel, just to show you how to make it operational. And SPSW does the personalization, and all the others are the same. Well, all the platform, the conception, exactly this one that I showed you. The notification before the ship arrives, the control by the border police, dangerous or pollutant goods, the notification of waste. This was implemented in the articles of the different directives. Notification and safety and security matters, the ISPS code. This code was a code implemented for the safety that I told you in the morning, shared throughout the logistics chain, in which any interface of the ship with the terminal, each terminal has its own security official. The terminal has a security official, and upon entry there is an interaction between both of them. All the ships need to be certified in accordance with the code, and all our terminals need to be certified. When a ship has no certification, we can accept them, of course, but we need to make a declaration of safety signed by them and us to implement additional measures or not to the ship, and we need knowledge to the competent authority. This has to deal with the illicit use of the ship, or it can be a weapon itself, it's tricky nowadays, the world. For example, a vehicle carried with LPG can be used. We saw images in 9/11 that we never thought we'd seen before. The world will have this present of the two planes going into the tower, so the world is quite awakened for the protection of the ship can be protected. The idea of using the ship for illicit context or deliberate intention of provoking harmful consequences. So the ISPS code are a series of measures that try to implement in each port a security plan and monitoring of ships and vessels. And then the entry summary declaration. Then you have the maritime declarations of health, many other documents, but these are the pre-arrival ones, and in fact the directive of implementation. So we just saw the entry into the platform. We didn't see it there, but the first page of the platform is the catalog of services. Very simple for the entry procedures. You need this. For services, you can require this, and to exit, you need that. So an agent at home can negotiate a ship and tell us that he wants to bring the ship, makes the notice of arrival, goes to the form, and then you have the permits of entry. As for the counter mark automatic, the ISPS declaration, the residues, waste, to click and fill the form, to record it. They are in green here when there are no requests. They are black where they are asking for authorization. It's yellow. When they are green, they are dispatched. That problem of ineffectiveness is summarized with this simplicity. Click on a button and fill out the form and deliver the information to those who have to make decisions. And the service catalog that we just dispatched was a service of works on board. These crew are not from this ship, but it will clicked on the works on board and made a form that I have authorized. This is a simple principle. And then procedures of exit. This first document of the pre-notification before the ships arrive, where part of the information is already accomplished. And why? Because if I click here, of course I can't click here on the slide. There are several points of information whereby each one of the segments I have information to help me. For example, here is the ship where I have the characteristics of the ship, length, height. Sometimes it's formed, I told you about DIS. Remember? Well, we have a database with 40 something thousand ships, which are fed by Lloyd's. It's a product that we buy annually. And when the ship announces itself, the system asks, "Who are you?" When it gets near us, and the identification system automatic tells me that I'm the ship something, and our system immediately clicks and puts a name on it. And with this name, the database has all the characteristics. Many forms have are pre-filled, so the simplification to simplify the filling of this form. Who is the agent, the navigation agent? These are drill down windows that gives us all the information from the agent to the taxpayer's number, the dates of birth. So this is the opening form, which is notification of entry. That tells us also the preferential peer. Okay, it's a passenger ship. It has a passenger list and the crew list also. It's a mandatory notification for foreign services. We saw the concerns with hazmat cargo, in which we had afterwards the integration on the safety net database. Do you remember? In this form, the ship before the directive says that 24 hours before arrival, all the ships need to notify the port and to notify to tell them exactly what they bring as cargo. And that notification needs to be here with the number of the container, the type of cargo, the class of the cargo. This means all the cargo that's on board was pre-filled here. So one of the complex questions that we have is that the agent needs to have a manual list that it needs to deliver, needs to be here and scan it for me to use this information. And why? Because all the means are not so unified as we would like in the manifest and transfer data here. So we took a small step in the change. We created an Excel document with a standard CV something, which I changed that list. It's already made at Excel in the application, the app. This was a small step that we took to solve the question locally why we don't have an uniformity. Once the cargo is inserted somewhere, it flows. We are not there yet, but here in the port, each port will try to solve by itself because it's not interesting in a perspective, which is the global vision, but will make it agile, some local processes. In this case, the navigation agent will place here. And what happened in this notification? In this port, as we have here this area that's our two colleagues, which are from the environment area, that are well articulated with the code of the MDG that I told you before, which is the code that regulates dangerous cargo, how they can be transported by sea or by land, the separation by the criminal liturgicus, which are cargo that legislation simply does not accept the existence of criminal neutral goods. If it has, the ship is not accepted, so there's a refusal of entry of the ship. The existence of class 7 goods or explosives, if they transport this kind of cargo, there is a verification up to 1 ton we accept, more than 1 ton we do not accept ships for to entry into the port. So we can prepare this documentation in advance before the entry of the ship. This notification of dangerous cargo is analyzed line by line, container by container, by our colleagues, and then we'll deal with the so-called the dispatch. They say, okay, this is in accordance, or there is a container here that we need to unload, or we do not accept to load it. So we are not able to provide services to the ship if our colleague does not give us the okay for this document. Okay, those who are ahead in the planning and these colleagues in the back office that are making this the code, these notifications are smart, have this type of code where we can have the description of all the goods with a security chart by ship with the classification and the recommendations regarding the distances. The peroxide cannot be together with the bases cannot be together with salts. And all of this needs to be verified before the entry of the ship. You remember the recent disaster of the Taijin port based on this on dangerous goods, thermal accumulation that was quite high, and there was segregation that's quite clear, but our products that react even for the proximity that they have with one another. Other mandatory notification has to do with environmental questions or measures to remove the incentive the ships to leave the cargo. When I went to the sea in 40 years, I went in tank ships, and this was legal. We could clean. We had 80,000 tons of oil, and we went to Syria to charge, and we were washing the tank and leaving a trail of oil. And that was allowed with a certain per mileage. In each mile, we could leave a certain quantity of oil. these waters became contaminated. It was made naturally at that time. Today they need to notify before getting into the port, first only just to notify and say how many tons they have. We know the capacity ship by ship. A ship that is here has no waste, almost full and of it. And on the sea, we can recommend the gathering, or we can call the port seat control to see what they will do and to control this substance release. All the ports have today to gather the waste. They need to, if the ship voluntarily admits that it needs the collection, has a request that we provide that service, we deliver a certificate Marpol that is a proof the delivery of a competent authority as a port authority, and then we have our service provider that directs for certified factories that process the waste. And then we receive the feedback from the factory of receiving those quantities. This mapping of the received waste we need to deliver it on the Environment Ministry. This is valid for either carbon liquid waste and for garbage, the regular garbage of organic from kitchen, as we all have. We have certified companies providing the service to the ship or are contracted by us. Other of the concerns of mandatory reports is the ISPS declaration, International Ship and Port Facility Security Code. Here we have a notification that it's mandatory also, and the ship needs to notify the 10 previous ports and in which level it has operated, 1, 2, or 3, to have an area which is our area of safety, that it's verifying ship by ship before giving the okay. As you see, this is a back office work that on the planning, we have a series of colleagues that say, okay, this is in accordance also, and people can supply and welcome the ship. When we give the okay here, once again, this goes to the network and deal with security. Yes, PS is okay. And then it provides services and we have the adequate measures. This doesn't matter, we will not deal with this, just to show you that all the ships, and this is a declaration of the terminal, of the passenger terminal, all our facilities in Leixões, all our terminals are certified by the competent authority. And what does this mean? That there was an assessment of risk by a competent authority. It is an authority that visits terminals, sees the security levels on the first assessment, is to see what exists and then to recommend countermeasures so that this terminal is not well protected. It can be intruders here, doesn't have CCTV. So fragility is that in a passenger terminal in control of access and everything else. So there is a risk analysis, measures the probability of a certain risk happening, and it's mandatory to implement measures that can reduce the level to an acceptable and measurable one. The final step is after we have our security plan, each time a ship arrives, we have a security here, there we see the accordance with the code, and after that moment, we obtain the certification of the terminal. All ships equally need to be certified as well by competent authorities, sometimes called company authorities. And when the ship gets here and has a certification, it is inserted in that notification before the arrival. We see the conformity of the certificate, see if it's valid, and if it is, we accept the entry, and the ship operates with all the normality, interacting with our protection officer. The general cargo declaration, it's a request of authorization to unload with declaration of the cargo to unload it. The ship that arrives after the pre-notification has the most basic services of technician, as we saw. The first contact was with the VTS. The country says, I'm getting here, I'm arriving. The VTS says, well, you have to wait, you have pilot at this hour or that hour. We have pilots for 24 hours, mooring services, services of towers. Protection and safety also. On the safety, as we saw, and then the fight and prevention of spillage. All these services are introduced in the app and managed in an integrated way in a single center, which is colleagues from Europe will not be with us tomorrow, but this is our room that we call coordination, center of coordination of ships, with all this coordination is made in back office and is verified and mobilized to the terrain. So these are the basic services. How do they happen? Is that you have the pre-arrival notification, integrates them in our app. We have a control room with this technology, with video all, where you have the requests. The colleagues are here, and then you have the planning, distributing the ships according with the agent has requested. And then we wait for the authorization of the port authority, of the harbor master, of port health, of customs, and immigration. These are authorizations that the ship needs to have pre-arrival. As you see in the pre-arrival request, when the ship asks to enter, all these flow to the different authorities. And what happens next is that we have the pre-arrival notifications. We know that the ship is arriving, we know when it's arriving. The VTS knows it has a ship coming, knows what information it has for the ship, to articulate with commander. And what happens is when they request on the pre-arrival, see how simple that kilometers between different authorities, some were closed, this doesn't operate now. These requests, these authorities, clearances flow to each one of the authorities. This is a form of the authorization where we are waiting for our colleague has seen the ISPS code that the colleague from notification of dangerous cargo gave her okay, and when on the other side someone like I just did in the form gives us the okay, this light becomes green when the authority, with each one of the authorities, is saying which document it's authorized, and we can only let the ship enter and give it services when the lights are green. Same thing for the departure of the ship. The ship can only depart when all the lights are green. See how all this complexity, after all these years of development and investment, are reduced to this simplicity. Well, the ship arrives, it interacts with the VTS, as we said before, and then this has to do with the land, with the terrain to provide services. VTS knows all this information, we are all online. It recalls the services and makes them mobilize them for when the ship arrives. And then we will accompany the entry of the ship. A lot of things here that are analyzed, but this simple way. The ship just moored, record the hour, everything is recorded, and so we have the the record points that will automatically be in the invoice. And then the ship, when it departs and passes 6 miles, we close the process and we send the invoice automatically. The process of ship is this one. When we moor the ship, we have the other microprocess of goods where you have the manifest. You spoke about manifest, right? Where you have the permits for the loading and unloading, the reports of operation, the arrival of the crane, the finish line, storage, services, the catalog of services for cargo, as we have for the ship. It's in the same room. We have an area with the control of the port activity, where we have the manifest of the ship, and it is integrated in the system. When the ship arrives, we start the operation. It has a gate in, it has to go through a gate to exit the cargo. And all this information is integrated in the system. When the ship starts operating from the pier, the so-called teleoffice, sometimes in English these names are not present, with an iPad and a wireless network. Each time a container enters, it integrates the number of the container. And these lines are being integrated here when we have a monitoring of the cargo process, where we can conciliate information received in a document of the ship that told us what it would bring, what it had in the gate, and what went on board or not. All this work is made in the PSWs.
What we do here is try to conciliate all this information, integrate it electronically through many different ways. Of course, what's the main problem today? In the growth that the ports with their investment cannot accompany. Well, the flux of cargo in the entrances of the port, is everything okay with you? Obviously, it generates a problem here. Well, often there is some congestion, some blocking at the entrance of the ports. Obviously, this fluidity that we see here is possible by using some ways that are dedicated, or ways to create fluidity in road access. Leishuish created one of these dedicated ways. This is the case of Leishuish, but there might be other ports, and so this is a particular way that connects the port to the great national roads, and so the port access is thus guaranteed. Just the access by itself is not a determinant factor itself, because we can have great accesses, and when entering the port we might have problems, we might have lots of verifications of containers. So the great bet that we have, and in this process of cargo fluidity and integration of information, it is fundamental, of course, at the gate in and at the gate out of the cargo to make some improvements. And the best partner that I can mention here is Paulo, that who accompanied this implementation process from the building and still accompanies us today, and he's the great protector, the great verifier of the whole infrastructure. Leishuish is concentrated itself in an only portway that controls the entrances and exits to the port. This is the main difference that we have in certain questions, is that the customs itself gives the authorizations as well online for to the gate as the container is arriving, and so all of this information is always flowing in the common computer platform. Of course, speaking with the custom system, with the dealers planning and management system. All of these all are information technologies questions, of course. But this interoperability in Leisure has been able gathering our dealers, the customs, and the port operators at the gate, all of them together. And besides entering and controlling the cargo while entering and exiting, they also make the control of access. That is, they are worried about who enters the port, who drives. And so there's a control and verification of the access. How we do it in an electronic way as well. Our colleague here, I was waiting for him to answer me as well. No cargo in Lake I wanted to show it to him. Well, in Lake no one, as I usually say, no one comes here by mistake. No truck comes here just to pick up one cargo, because the whole information regarding the cargo is pre-announced. There is no container that is not pre-announced in the system for the customs to be able to evaluate the risks of the cargo in time and prepare everything to be able to authorize the exit or the verification of the cargo online, or to forbid its entrance in the port. So there's a pre-announcement before the cargo actually arrives to the port. We have here the shipping announcement of the port. So any partner who works with cargo can come here and just insert here before sending the truck, and see if there is a customs dispatch that was emitted. He can verify it in his iPhone, opening the app, and doesn't have to come to the port if it's not done. In his office, he can also at any time, any of our partners with a cargo can, in this app that we call the container follower, put the number of the container and follow online where it is at a given moment. If it is arriving, which ship is bringing it, at what time did it exist, the number of location in the terminal at the moment. So they can have this information before even coming and recovering the cargo, before having the decision about the customs decision. So they can verify all of this in the app as well, the authorization to exit or to the port. At the beginning of the process, we have automatic weighings. So as the container can be weighed when he reaches the gate. So this can be done in an electronic kiosk that is available to recharge the cards or to dispense cards. And this is a system that is integrated by the PSW in all the network here in the port. The truck stops on top of the weigh bridges and is automatically weighed, and this information is communicated in the network automatically. So we can see that we've been verifying that there have been some accidents due to weighing or bad weighing that can compromise the stability of ship. We can see here an accident that is 4 years old. Or we have examples here as well, containers who have too much weight, and when we pick them up, the whole balance is lost. The problem has been so important that there's a directive nowadays that makes it, well, now, Leishoish as in terms of security, for understanding that some cargo have to be weighed. We have these measures, but starting in 2006, the Solis Convention made it mandatory for all the containers to be weighed before the delivery, and the weighing has to be certified. So there are measures that are in favor of safety, and it's one of the works that Paulo here has been working on lately, trying to find the solution that that have been developed. So the process then goes on to to the portic here. We have here a technology by square meter. We have cameras that basically photograph the truck. They have a reading of the character identification, and then when it reaches the gate, we have the central services, the central body of the port authorities who do this control of port access to see if the truck and the truck driver are indeed authorized. And once the truck has passed the gates, it has automatically been identified. We have a picture, we have the number of the vehicle, we have the license plate, we have the entering process, and these pictures of the container taken from different angles. This is indeed an OCR reading that allows us to integrate this information from the moment until they pass the 42, the gateway, that is approximately 800 meters. This process was integrated so as the colleague that is at the entrance of the port has already the whole process open, waiting for the truck to reach the gateway. And here it's the moment where we have this concept of one-stop shop. The truck has already an open process by being photographed before, and so here he just awaits for the operational control of the concessionaires. Here people are going to tell him where to bring the container, and this will communicate to the machines and to the cranes that one container is arriving to go to a given place. So the customs measures are automatically entered from the customs, and as I told you, at the central core we have our security that makes the control the identity. All the trucks that come to Leixões advance a little further to these barriers that we can see here, and all the truck drivers that come to Leixões have a little port access card. We have currently 10,000 to 11,000 cards that were distributed, and at that single control point where the lady actually looks at the cards and validates that the customs authorize the entrance, the truck driver reaches here the barrier and is going to open it with the card in question, and by presenting it here, this opens. And what does the system do? It integrates in that process the name that is of the truck driver, the name of the company, so as the process as the information of the cargo, but also the access control of the company within the port. And so we enter the port. It's 6:45. What did we miss? Yes, exactly. And this little lady that we see here is controlling the exit as well. What Paulo is saying here is that when this lady is preparing the entrance process, she asks him what he's going to do besides, of course, bringing the container. And after exiting, he said, well, I will exit without any cargo, and then I will enter and go get a container or general cargo. So the lady makes this entering process, but also prepares the exit and passes it to another point, that is this point with this lady that is on the side of the exit. So when this truck is going to unload the container and get back to this point, the process has already been transferred from the other side of the gateway to here, and here the lady will only have to wait a few seconds. You can see here, somewhere here. Yes, this is it. So she has this process The other lady is going to have to wait for this button to turn green, that is the authorization given by the terminal and by the customs, for the container to be able to exit the port with general cargo. And that's it. Our colleagues abroad, they're very quiet. I don't know if they have some question they might want to ask. They wish they could come to the visit as well. Well, at best, I don't know if you intend to come to Portugal. Please come and visit us. I believe you have my email. Please do not hesitate in sending us some feedback on how the training went. Please do ask questions. It's always a pleasure to receive feedback and to answer your questions. I had a little exercise prepared here for our colleagues here because they have to be evaluated. But I've heard that our colleagues abroad are also very interested, and so we sent them a little exercise today as well. It's not something for you to do today, so I had counted with the time. I knew I couldn't do it here, so just take it home. Of course, it's merely an academic work. It's just to understand if you managed to interiorize some of the things that were said here. Some of the answers are in the notes you have, of course, but what do we want here is to see if you understood. Now we have to schedule a date for us, not rate, because we have to have an evaluation to be able to emit the certificate. So you're going to send me this exercise, and what's the challenge here? You can give it to me tomorrow during the visit, but if you don't want to, because Friday is a difficult way to speak about logistics, we can find a day until, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday, and you can send it by email. Try not to be much later because I have to give an answer here. What's your email, please? Cunha. The first slide of the PowerPoint. It's roy.cunha@apdl.pt. So let's schedule it for Wednesday. I'd like you to send it to me by email by then. And as for our colleagues abroad in Europe, please do the exercise as well. So this exercise is merely academic once again. The lines that are here are not exactly real, although made with a certain degree of reality, and I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. And if you're interested, just not to stick by the exercise, you can send it to me, and I will answer you with a comment and evaluate your exercise if you have any interest in it. So this picture has a physical way that is approximately traced here. These yellow dots that you see here are ports, are actual real ports. And we have somewhere here a buyer, a seller, and on the B, a buyer. And what we want here is in a free way. We want you to choose a way. We want you to trace with a pen, a marker. I'm going to put the cargo in this port. I'm going to take it to this port, and then I'm going to deliver it there. Just write over the map, and then try and tell us freely as well what you used, which means of transport you used to get there to there, and then what you used to get from the arrival port to the buyer. What I ask you is that one of the transport has to be by sea, because a truck service from A to B is not exactly what I want. What I want is for you to deliver from A to a given port, and then make it reach another port, and then go from the arrival port to point B. I'd like you to trace over this picture, and I want you to establish the connections and this door-to-door service to deliver the goods. Identify which means of transport you used from A to the first port, and then from the second port to B. What kind of services well, here we don't want to ask you which highway you used or which short sea shipping. We just want you to tell us which means of transport you're using. And for the means of transport that you chose from A to port and port to B, which services and infrastructures do you think should be in these interfaces? That is, when the truck will deliver, for example, from A to port, and as we mentioned today in intermodality, the way this flows, what I want you to do is to tell me what infrastructures or services have to be here to ensure the intermodality. For example, maybe we should have a railway terminal or a road terminal that are specialized. Maybe we need to have a single window. So just try and tell us which infrastructure have to be there to ensure this fluidity. You may consult anything you want. My idea here is for you to reflect upon this. But I also want you to ensure the one-stop shop in the ports. We've spoke about electronic customs, about gateways. So please tell us as well what has to be ensured in these interface, and also the electronic dispatch of the integrated of the ship. Third point, in a very brief way, because we all have our attributions. So very briefly, I would like you to tell us for each of these concepts, intermodality, one-stop shop, and electronic dispatch, I want you to briefly give us for each of these concepts the main advantages for the affirmation of maritime transport. So why intermodality is important, what can we earn from one-stop shop, and what can we gain from electronic dispatch. Of course, do not write a page about it, but just give us some advantages. And for me to say tomorrow that after a class, well, I don't call it a class because I'm not a teacher, but after this session and this meeting, I want to know that I want you to know much better than some professionals what is logistic and what is port activity. I don't want you to explain it to me because it's explained. I just want you to make 3 affirmations that indeed establish the differences between the PSW and the LSW. Well, one of them is a platform that connects logistic aspects, and the other is about integrated services. So these are 2 completely different things. And so make me 3 concrete affirmations that establish the difference between a PSW and a LSW. This is quite easy. If you do not understand something here in the exercise, I just explained it. What I said, that this is not an exercise because I'm not a teacher, but we have to evaluate you for you to have this certificate. So I want you to make a little work around this exercise in a brief and free way. I want you to establish a structured network from one port to another. And people who feel comfortable do not have to use the slides. They can, well, just be free to use what you think is best. If tomorrow you have any doubt, you can ask me tomorrow during the visit. And what I established that until Wednesday, you send it to me by email and I will insert it in the process. Well, you still don't have my email. Don't you have my email, Ilio? chloe.cunha@apdl.pt. Well, that's it. I don't know if you have any questions that you may want to ask me. Regarding this last part that we've been discussing, I would like to ask something about the cargo that ship channelers sell to the crew. are these goods subject to some sort of safety control or fiscalization? You may leave it there. Well, the chip chandler is a service provider. It's the person that provides the potatoes, the cabbages, that provides goods to the ship. The policy in l'échange is that great part of the service providers of l'échange are licensed. So they propose to offer their service here. Of course, nowadays the world made this much more complicated because before we had 4 to 5 chip chandlers to do the service, and it was much easier to license them. And so what we give them a confirmation that they have a good service here in Porto. Otherwise, we could take away their licensing. Because as I said, this is very important for people who work and for people who direct and have some management responsibilities. As I told you, I never wrote anything good about a port. I only criticized and including about chip chandlers, because each time I came to l'échange, the potatoes were terrible. Everything was rotten. And they say that the crane is great. Yes, of course, it has to work well, but as all commanders, it was my duty to tell what's bad. And having a port vision and someone, and in this case the port authority, have to ensure that the services that are provided, because see one thing here, what is going to be said in l'échange? We have an incident that occurs outside from the port. We have a ship that comes here. Well, what happens in the news? Well, they say that there's an accident that occurred in Malaysia when we have nothing to do with it, but we know that a yacht that shipwrecks outside our control service, it's easier for us to control everything, although it's not our concern. But the best thing is, of course, for us to take care of the matter. But the idea here is that we don't have a control nowadays, because due to the globalization, we have ship chandlers today who come from Spain to supply. So there is indeed a control of entrance goods. Nobody enters l'échange without a given authorization. As I told you, we have 10,000 entrance cards that are distributed, and we have some trucks that come to the gateway even to give some goods for the ships. If they come for the first time at the gateway, they give him a code, a PIN code, and so instead of presenting the card at the gateway, he has a little he has to put in his PIN, and it can be used for 24 hours. And to give him that PIN, we ask him for ID, and so it's a bit of a complicated process, of course, but he is identified and associated to that PIN. So the control of the goods that enter l'échange is controlled by the customs, even if it's to provide to the ships. It's controlled by us here, and of course, it's controlled upon entering the ship. Very well. Do we have some intervention? Do you want an ice cream? We have here a colleague that asks us exactly what your work post is here in APDL. Well, right now I am director of an area that is the direction of port operations and safety, which means that in the same direction we have all these services that I just showed you, and we manage all of them. The service provision to the ships, the cargo control, the safety and security matters, and we also have an environment area where we accompany what are dangerous cargo, what is cargo pollution, and some more complicated matters. So this direction integrates all these services. Well, I think I think there was a little confusion here because your name is Commander Rui Cunha, and so he wants to know if you're still part of the Navy, or if, given your functions at the APDL, you no longer navigate, but you're called Commander because you already were in the Navy. Well, I'm going to present myself by saying goodbye. I have 40 years of service related to sea. During the first 16 years, of course, I was a commander of merchant navy, and I've been navigating in ships. During the last 5 years of these 16 years, I was in container ships, and then I came to the land, and I stayed here also at the port of Leisure in the pilot service. So I was a pilot, and then I just entered and exited the ship. So I was a harbor pilot, as we call them, and I did it for approximately 10 years, and during the 12 last years I've been here in the direction. So I had an area as a client in the port. I was a service provider, and now I am managing the services. So I bring here the three visions. That's what I can offer. It's the knowledge of these three different areas. Is that it? Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ellie, once again, it's a pleasure to have you here. Well, I believe that sometimes something are repetitions for you, but see you all tomorrow.